Good to see everybody today. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Coach Rainey Byrd, and it's my weekly coaching call here on Mondays, every single week. And I appreciate you guys. What I'm going to do this week is play a recording of an interview I did this week on another team call, the Team Trailblazers call. It's a good buddy of mine, Shannon Pyatt, asked me to speak to their team. And it was just one of those days. It was one of those days where I was kind of hitting on all cylinders.
All right, talk to
I
you.
thought it was a powerful call. And again, they sent me the recording and I thought I would give it to you unedited. So you just hear it, how it goes. I think it was really kind of on point for what's going on in the market. So I hopefully you enjoy that. It's about 38 or 39 minutes long. If you have to leave at 12:30 Pacific time, then you could catch it on YouTube and watch the balance of it. But the first thing, to honor you, I'm going to answer questions, any coaching questions or input or things that you need to talk about, anything you want to ask me today. I'm happy to offer that the reason I'm here is to support and help you guys. And then once we get done with that, I'm going to put right into the YouTube video that we recorded last week. And I was kind of like a fire breathing dragon that day. I was dropping some stuff on them that's valuable. Started out as an interview format, but the feedback's been really, really spectacular on it. Even the people that watched the video that are on that particular team that weren't on the call were like, holy moly, who is this guy? And how do I plug into some of this stuff? So flattering, but I wanted you guys to, all right. So with that, I'm going to open it up for a few minutes. If you have any questions, remember we're recording. If you want me to stop recording so I can answer something from a coach's perspective privately, I'm welcome to do that for you as well. Eric, see Eric there driving. Good to see you, brother. Man, Eric and I go way back. I think we might go back 20 years. I think 2003 is when I met Eric, when he was running Verizon in Redding, California. But anyway, good to see everybody here. So any questions for me? Any challenges you're having?
Hey, I'm calling Indies.
Yes.
And hopefully this is okay with recording. Just to ask you, what have you seen has been the best success to set up that first meeting with someone like you or Don, or
So this call is production only. So we have a lot of broker agnostic people here for coaching specifically, but I'll have that conversation with you and help because it's a great question. But it's just not this particular call, Russ.
Yep, no problem. That's why I was asking. All right, cool.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I appreciate it. So again, this is the production call we do every week. And if you have a production question, getting offers accepted, what we're seeing in the market, all these components are what I'm here for every week to help you. Anything in that lines. And if not, I'm going to start playing the copy of that particular recording for you guys to see today, because I do think it's valuable and it was timely. All right,
Randy,
cool. Yes.
I've got a quick question. What I'm reading, so I did an open yesterday and I had some cat come through and just started chatting with him. And now I'm going to his house today for kind of a preliminary listing appointment.
Perfect.
And I have an inkling. I started digging into the numbers today because I'm a numbers nerd, and talked to him a bit about yesterday, what he's wanting to net and kind of what his goals are about selling his house. And I just don't foresee the numbers in the crystal ball are not promising for him. And I also have a condo second listing appointment tomorrow where it's going to be kind of a similar situation. It'll be an easier blow for them. They're a bit more realistic, but I came into this when everything was the height of COVID. I'm always about delivering the good news. It's about delivering the bad news that I'm curious about, trying to, I know it's not me. And I talked to Dawn a little bit about this one, saying, and I told him, I'm going to come deliver to you not what I think. I'm going to tell you what the market's telling me.
Yeah.
And if some other agent, as I know he's talking to others, I go, if some other agents blow in smoke, we're all looking at the same numbers. And I'll give you my ideas. But any suggestion for this kind of shifting market, especially in Portland, as we're going to start going into the fall? He was thinking, maybe I should wait till October to list my house. I go, no. We're either going to do it right now or we're going to do it next spring. That's the choice.
Tracy, it's such a great question. I think it applies to everybody on the call, because we are seeing a time where the interest rates are taking the number of buyers out of the market. I saw Russell put in there, it drops 1%. We open the pool of people that can come in and be party to, availability to buying power. And so the price point, all these things make such a big difference right now. I would really encourage you, and again, 20 years in real estate as a broker. I took 88 listings out of 90 listing appointments one year. So I think I'm in tune with this particular language and things. Never make it so much about you and even about, them. I would really focus on the numbers and what he needs to net and all these things are really, really inconsequential when you look at the bottom line. Why is he selling? Does he need to sell now? Can he wait 3 years? Can he wait 6 years? What is the necessity of this? So I like doing that needs analysis with them instead of getting in the granular parts of the numbers right away, because then you're kind of almost like backtracking. So I would really do a nice needs analysis with him. What are you looking to sell? Why are you looking to sell? What's your time frame? What's a perfect 10? If you sold it in a week for all cash, is that a 10? Or I might need 90 days, right? Because everybody's got different needs. Really get into these components of it. So when you start having a price conversation later, you could lean on the fact that his wife needs surgery in October, and it'd be a lot of powerful benefit to have that house sale done by then. Or he's got a kid starting in college, or he's got to move by November for his new job, but he's not pressured today. He's only a 2 today, but it'd be a 10 in October. Whatever that dialogue that you allow to have that conversation to give you the ammunition to bring him back to the things that are not emotional, bring him back to the things that are numbers driven. And because time, we know the rates are going to come down someday. Is that 12 months, 24 months, 36 months? We don't know. I can speculate that as soon as the election cycle is over, we're going to see things change rapidly. And I think change as fast as they went up, they're going to come down, maybe even faster. I think there's an opportunity for a new party to get in there and say, we're fixing this today. They raised rates, 2.5 or 3 basis points over the course of 6 months. We're going to whack them. It's possible. So that's going to create a massive interest in the market. All these things are components you could talk about with him, but it gets back to what is your time frame? What do we need to do for you time-wise? And then one thing that I've found valuable is visually, you take a piece of paper and you draw from 0 to 365 days on one side, which represents time on market. And then from price low to high in terms of on the bottom of the page of what he's going to get for his house, right? And somewhere at the bottom, these things intersect. Meaning if you're round numbers, 500,000 is the list price. If you listed it for 250, it'd sell today. That's 0 days on the market, right? And somewhere along that scale, these lines start interchanging. When I do that visually, I just go, you tell me where you think this is going to happen. Like you be the Nostradamus in this for a minute, right? And they're like, well, it just depends. I don't know how long it's going to take yet, but I know what I need for it. Well, all of a sudden, these things start becoming visual for them. And I said, if you give me 365 days, I can get you 500 grand. I'm positive, even if we overprice a little bit right now, I'm really confident in that. And I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to spend all the marketing, all the advertising, everything. And you don't pay a penny, right? All you're doing is trusting me with this time frame. Right. So those are conversations that you can have with him that I think takes it away from that. God, he's got to get this and the market's here. And all of a sudden you're just at a divide. All right. And I also think it will give you an advantage because the other agents are not likely going to do this. They're going to be honed in on a CMA, what's selling, how much time they're going to be on the market, and it will maybe set you apart.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hopefully that helps. Any other questions, anything, takeaways from that as we're going through this particular piece? And by the way, my agenda for my video is my agenda. If you guys have stuff for me, I'm here for you first, right? So what's going on in the real estate market for you? What's going on that I can help you with in a production language or production help today? We got a good group on here today. Jody Joe, are you asking a question? Or are you just waiting? Good to see you. Good to see you. Adele, Eric, Coach Laura Justice. We got some rock stars on here today. Russell. Are you guys seeing anything in the market that you have questions about? What's cooking with rates and all those things? Even though What I look at's more national. You know, I don't look at localized very much. I look at mostly the national stuff. But right now, the rates, again, nationally, running 7.48. That's the highest they've been in 22 years. So 30-year jumbos, 7.12. The average 30-year fixed is 0.11% up today, 0.11. So 7.48, that's the highest number I've seen on my phone ever today, right? So we're having increased pressure on the rates and the increased conversation pressure with buyers about the rates and sellers. And like Russell said last week very eloquently, he said, hey, the challenge is the sellers are at a 2.5, 3.5, even a 4% rate, and they don't want to move and get into something else. They're losing buying power, so they're sitting on their hands. The buyers have lost, potentially $1,000 a month of buying power over these increases. Right, we're seeing really quality, mature agents going to the closing table and being shocked what their payments are for these young buyers moving into these houses. So what's your mentality around that? Do you have a plan? You could buy down rates, but it's basically you're prepaying for interest. So you're prepaying of a guess what may happen in the future, right? And so I'd rather assume that risk that I'm taking a short-term problem and putting it into a longer-term solution. For many, maybe even a year, we were talking about date the rate, marry the house, and that's become a little cliche now. I think it's come up enough, but it's still true. But again, people need to move for a lot of different reasons. Death, marriage, jobs, relocation, family, medical. It's just people need to buy and sell. And the house selling is still very, very brisk. We're still seeing very brisk numbers in the transactional volume. It's off a lot. It's off, considerably. Some markets are off 40% over their historic high that we saw during COVID, but that doesn't make them abnormal, right? Abnormal is over a 5-year, a 10-year period, a 20-year period. I got into real estate 20 years ago, March of this year. March was my 20th year in real estate. Got in March of 2003, and rates were at about 6.5%, just whiskering in the 6.75% range. So for the last 20 years, we had this straight line. It was this big dip all the way to, I have a 2.25% fixed rate on my house. And I got it not this January, but the January before, right before rates started going crazy. And I wasn't super smart in it. I just got lucky. Right. I refinanced when I didn't need to, just took advantage of a lower rate. And now there's no way I'm selling this house. It's just not happening, right? It was on the radar. We bought a place in Puerto Rico. Do we really need Oregon? But this is a seller conversation that I'm having firsthand, right? I know better. What am I going to do with a chunk of money?
Randy, I have a question, if you don't mind.
No.
So for me in my market, payments have jumped to $3,000-$4,000, not up to $1,000. And I'm thinking the solution is more and more seller financing. Do you have any, like a best way to approach that?
Yeah, it's creative and it's amazing because there's multiple things that can happen to benefit both buyers and sellers, right? And I think the movement for a lot of investors like myself is I'm looking at seller carry or seller financing as alternatives to trying to go get hard money and fix things up for a short period of time. You get invested interest in ownership and the upside potential and all those things that we're doing now. And really the greatest benefit is I get to look at buying some of these investments at rates that I couldn't possibly touch, right? So you have this big swing between a private money is somewhere around 12 to above %. And you have some people that have 2.5%, 3.5% interest rates. So I can be very creative in the price that we give them for that seller carry. So remember, in my opinion, this is just me, it's always this give and take. If you're going to a seller carry and they want $500 for the house, you've got to be in the top of the price range, if not exceeding that. You're giving them an incentive to take this longer term relationship, right? In the seller carry. So you can't have your cake and eat it too necessarily. You can't go over the seller carry and invite them into a conversation like you're paying cash for it. Right? So all cash is almost 50% of the transactions right now. That was kind of a shocking statistic when I heard it. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money that's flowing around, but it's disrupting the interest rate conversation because 50% of all buyers don't need to talk and worry about the interest rate being 7.48% today. But the other 50% are being almost double taxed. Now they've got twice the problems because there's so much cash in the market. You see what I'm saying? So with seller carry, I would go in and just say, hey, there's some opportunities for you to get more money for your house. And again, it's that needs analysis. Do you have the opportunity to wait 2 or 3 years and do a seller carry? What do the terms of that look like? What's important to you? Do you need 100 grand for something else from that equity? And do you have a buyer that's willing to come up with 100 grand for that risk reward, right? Or is it they're looking to get more money for it, or they're looking to delay their 1031 exchange, or them having to buy something else? Maybe they want to travel the country for a year. You can't get into that without knowing those questions from that needs analysis. And I can't emphasize this enough. A good seller conversation may be, hey, I have some creative opportunities, maybe creative financing, seller carry, whatever it may be. Can we have permission to sit down and collectively talk about how some of these things may benefit them? Because if you get an agent, it's listed, and the agent's roadblocking you, it's hard for you to have that conversation with them. They're just going to tell you, write it up, right? And then you're kind of stuck. So you could write it up without those conversations, but you see how that needs analysis and that little bit of, information gathering could be valuable to you.
Right.
So again, depends on what side of the fence you're on, Anna. If it's listed, then you've got a lot more restrictions in place.
Yeah.
If it's for sale by owner, the
No, I'm
world's your
thinking in
oyster.
particular about buyers because I'm seeing, opportunities in the market that just weren't there a year and 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But my buyers are just strapped at current interest rate. So
Yeah, and so it's not the seller's problem,
right.
it's your buyer's
My
problem.
buyer's problem. Right.
So when you come from that position, if you come in of a place of trying to negotiate power, you don't have any power.
Right.
But your buyer's credit rating, their jobs, they could be first responders, and you could tie into the emotional hearts of the sellers. There's a lot of different things. We had conversations that were going nowhere, and we found out that the seller's a teacher and the buyer's a teacher, and all of a sudden they had kumbaya teacher moments, right? And it helped the conversation. So that's why I really want to lean on the idea of finding out what the details are, so you can really try to pacify the needs of both. But your buyers really are in a position where they have no power, so they've got to give something up on the other side. And that's the buyer conversation you have with them lovingly. And on the seller side, you say, hey, you guys want 500 for your house, but it's been on the market 87 days. I think I have a solution. I think it's a win-win. My buyers are well qualified, but they're up against the ceiling because of rates. You know what the rates are doing.
Yeah, but the other challenge is in my market, we're not there yet. Properties are still moving rather fast, 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. So then it's a different need. If the seller wants their money in 2 or 3 weeks, then you have no option there. But if you ask the seller, hey, would you rather have more money in the year 2 or 3 down the road, or would you like to have all this money now?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking for the one that goes, hey, what do you mean? What do you want to do? What are you thinking? And would your buyers be willing to pay $50,000 above ask price with a seller carry if they can get in the house that they love?
Do we have any kind of contracts or proposals like that around seller financing? Because I
There's
know
seller financing addendums, especially, depends. You're talking all different states are all different, but California has a seller financing addendum. They have a seller carry. They have different forms that you can use. You might even bring in an attorneys if you need to in these particular cases, if it's outside your realm, or go to somebody that understands this more than you do. Flippers and investment guys are really getting creative on seller carries. So sometimes I'll get asked questions about, from friends of mine, like, hey, this was presented to me, and I'm like, man, this is creative. But it's all depends on what they need. And again, I don't need to tell stories, but there's, some people want to travel the country for 12 months and not worry about anything. Some people don't want to have the implications of a 1031 exchange. There's all kinds of things that could be involved, right? There's a risk to both sides. But I think the creative conversations with rates what they are really, really open right now. But again, your buyers, if they want to try and make aggressive or even, seller owner financing carry type offers on a listing that's been on the market one day, I probably wouldn't allow them. Or at least I'd have some stern conversations. Listen, you cannot. You got the wrong agent if you think that we're going to go write 10 offers at 5% under list price in the first 7 days is on the market with a seller carry.
It's kind of wild because I still see some agents saying they're putting on the property on the market, will review offers in 10 days from now.
Yeah.
And then those 10 days, come and they don't have any offers, but some house properties are still selling within 2-3 weeks. So it's
Yeah.
like a totally different waiting game than it was even just a year ago last spring.
100%. And you're in Hawaii, so it's a little different market there as well. But it's really the same thing. Things are changing throughout the market, and it's very geographical what's going on. Yeah. Laura, question.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
When you guys were talking, it was just like my brain was just sparking all over the place, because yes, there are contracts, but you need to probably check in with your local state to see what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do, because most states there is an attorney, you write an LOI almost, and then an attorney takes the rest. That wasn't what I wanted to say. It's my broker. I had to say
Yeah.
it.
And Laura was the broker of record for the whole state of Ohio for Keller Williams. So she saw thousands of contracts. I mean, imagine that, broker of record for a whole state. So I'm glad you chimed in. Thank you. I know my little, what's that?
I had something else more important. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Don't leave me.
I won't leave you.
I was thinking, like, who do I have as an investor that may be going to divest in 3 to 5 years that I can contact and have this specific conversation about owner financing, that maybe they don't want to sell today, but in 3 to 5 years they would. So I would write.
That's a great takeaway.
That you can match your buyers with, or you could market it at a high level, and then you just put a 3-year balloon on, or a 5-year balloon, so they would have to refinance before that time. I don't know. That's what I was just rolling around in my head. If you can help me think through it, or
no, I love it. And so let's put that into place, right? So say somebody wants 450 for it, you're going to give them an additional appreciation of 2, 3, 4% a year, whatever you negotiate. So you write it up for 475 in 3 years. You put down 20 grand as least possible as the buyer, but let's just say you're putting down 5%, or I wouldn't go much above that if my money's at risk. But if you have full control of that during that period of time, you can potentially resell it. You could potentially flip it. You can potentially do some things along the way because it's your contract. And at the very worst, you have a maturity date in 3 years with a balloon payment. And it could even be a penalty payment that gives you another period of time. All that's negotiable. And so I personally love creative stuff. I mean, I think Russell does as well, just by nature of him doing a lot of, FISBO, a lot of auction type properties, being in the REO games, a little outside of that because it's unemotional in the REO game, right? It's just asset, deal with it. And it's just a time situation. But anytime you have traditional sellers, it's completely an emotional game, in my opinion, either an egotistical game, an emotional game with stress and what's next and all those other components. And so I just love to get to the bottom of what that looks like for both parties to have a win-win. Yeah, that's amazing. This has been a really good call today, and I totally went off agenda what I had planned, but it's perfect because I think this is timely. This is the stuff that's important to you. And by the way, let's do a quick role play, right? Let's say, Laura, let's do a role play with you. Let's say you're my seller, and we're listing. Let's just make it super simple. $500,000. You need to sell it, but I don't know much about this, right? And I say, hey, Laura, appreciate you choosing us to work with you. And now that we're working together, we have some options, and I just want to talk to you about them. So number one, we've determined 500,000 is our price. I think that's a good price. Not too aggressive. We're kind of on the aggressive side of things, but we're definitely not too low. We're in that market, and the market's still kind of moving up. We've got a lot of imbalance with rates and things, but we feel good about 500,000. So let's take that off the table for a minute. Now, what about your importance of selling, or what's your motivation to sell right now? By the way, we're on the same team. We're like attorney-client privilege. What you tell me is not going anywhere else. Strictly for me to help you the most. So on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being if you never sold it, you don't care. It's just a portfolio and it doesn't matter. Unemotional. To a 10, meaning it's the most important thing you need to do within a period of time. Maybe it's 90 days you have to sell it because of a job transfer, medical, you've got a balloon payment somewhere. You bought another house is a good example, and you need to pay for that in the next 60 or 90 days or you're going to lose it. That's a very emotional thing. Where would you rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 right now?
8.
8. Okay, that's actually pretty high, Laura. Wouldn't you agree that that's on the higher end of the scale?
I do.
Right? 9's pretty important and 10's desperate. So you're an 8. Are you open to a conversation of maybe some other ways we could structure this? Is it an 8 because you need your money now, or is it an 8 for some other reason that you're selling?
It's an 8 because in 2 months it's going to be snowy here and I want out.
Okay, that's awesome. So you want to sell it prior to the winter.
Yes.
Now, is there anything penalty-wise that you would have from selling it, say, for instance, at your price in a year from now, or even 2 years from now at a premium? Is there anything stopping that conversation from happening?
No, because we have cash and we're going to buy our new place with cash. We just didn't want to have this place to keep maintenance on and stuff.
I totally get it. And do you have to do a 1031 with the cash from this transaction?
No, because
Okay.
this is our primary residence.
Okay, awesome. I love it. So you could take advantage of the tax code. You guys could write off the benefits of this and that. So are you open to a buyer that's willing to pay a premium, somebody that's got stellar credit and opportunity to purchase power? I'll make sure of that. And they come in with skin in the game. They come in with the deposit that would be non-refundable to you if they did not go through the sale. So in that regards, it's a guaranteed sell. And if they renege on this in 2 years or whatever the number is, that money would go to you without restriction. Are you open to that conversation?
I am. I'd want to know what kind of risk, risk percentage, what that would look like prior to, but it sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, so it's an opportunity for unique sellers like yourself that have high motivation time-wise, but don't have a high motivation for needing the money immediately. I think we can get you more money and treat it as an investment over the next 24 to 36 months, but yet have a lot of the guarantees in place, meaning that, they're going to risk a significant amount of money to get out of this if something happens.
Yeah,
and so it's considered a seller carry or seller financing, and all those things can be worked through, even if you have a current mortgage in place on your property.
Okay.
So are those options to talk about when we go to sell it? Because when I look at the buyer pool, it's shrunk a lot because the rates being at 7.48% today, it shrunk significantly. There's still a lot of cash in the equation, with buyers having cash. 50% of the market's cash, but they're usually looking for a discount. They're looking for power against you, where you might be able to take this power and put it into place with somebody that's just stuck in between these two things.
Yeah, if it's safe to do it, and I'm not going to have to evict somebody and come in and, put another 200,000 back into the house because they destroyed it, I'd be interested.
Yeah, and there are some risks. We can mitigate those risks through contracts and signing different documents along the way. So there is risks. I will always tell you that, but I'm confident we can mitigate those risks. because listen, if they put $100,000 down on it, it'd be hard for them to do that much damage. Plus we're going to destroy their good credit that they have. There's a lot of other things that they're not going to want to happen, but in contractual language, you'll have the power.
Sounds good.
Okay. So pause. Thank you for playing along, Laura, but that's a really good example of just kind of that needs analysis. If she would have said, nope, we need the cash to buy this next house, not interested, it's a dead deal. If they had a 1031, that might be a more of a reason to postpone it. Right. So this creative conversations are really valuable to have, both buyer and seller. It works both ways. Right. Hopefully that's helpful for you in the times that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other last questions? We're already at the half hour here. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here today. We've got a good group on here. Any last questions before I wrap up today?
Hey, Randy, I got one.
Yes, Eric.
Thanks for the nice words, by the way, in the beginning.
Yeah, you
So with the price sensitivity that in the market for the buying side, is it a good strategy on the buying side to try to anticipate programs that can help our buyers out? So for example, like the down payment program, by the time, honestly, I started to work on that, it was gone. Is there a way to get more ahead of it? Is that a good strategy? Or, like focusing on, you mentioned first responders, some of the programs around that. Is that a good strategy to pivot where you can help people out a little bit when there's sensitivity to interest rates?
Yes, yes, and yes. What you just said is all perfect. And what I would tell you is it's your job and almost your obligation right now as a realtor to have these things in place. Now, you could leverage through a lender a lot, right? The lenders will have a lot of packages. You can get all these things kind of in order. So you're asking them questions. Are you a veteran? No. You just remove 5 of the opportunities of those loans. Do you have down payment assistance opportunities? Is it a rural area? Is it all these things come into place when you're looking at the particular programs, first time home buyer, military, there are first responder programs now, government backed things. So all those things become, yes, very important to you. And personally, I would keep adding to that box of tools that you have available to you. And then through this needs analysis with the buyer, you can start checking the things off the list that don't apply to them. And the worst case scenario is you get done and you have only 2 options for that buyer because, their FICO is below 620. They don't have a down payment. They're just really in a stuck posture. And then that might go into credit repair. It might go into, you need to wait till the market changes and I'll stay in touch with you. But the market's moving away from them because of rates and pricing, right? Rates are going up, prices are not going down. So these things are both tracking. And every percent, sometimes I've heard different numbers. I think Russell might even know this, but every percent that you raise an interest rate, we've raised from 6.48 to 7.48 in a pretty short period of time. You lose upwards of 10% of the buyers to, I've heard big numbers, 5% to.
Yeah, in the US, the report came out yesterday. For every 1% it goes up, we lose 5 million buyers. I don't know what percentage that is of the buying pool.
Yeah.
And then we're telling people buy now if you can afford it, because what's going to happen is every percent that it comes back down, which we plan on being in the mid 5s, probably in 12 to 18 months, they add 5 million buyers back in and the competition goes up and prices are not going down.
That's exactly right. So you have this. Listen, the real challenge is going to be when the market and when the interest rates change, you're going to be busier than you could write contracts. And it sounds like a great problem, but if you're not scaled and ready for it, you're going to have the same problem you do now. You're going to have more buyers than you care to shake a stick at, but the competition is going to be so heavy that you can't make anything stick. And so no matter what, you always want to look at being a listing agent in this real estate world. A good markets, you want to be the listing agent. A bad market, you want to be the listing agent. So no matter what, always keep that in the back of your mind that you want to always be using this education to increase the opportunities to become a listing agent. Going in there, having good seller financing conversations with for sale by owners, there's a really nice way to increase your listing inventory. Right? It is. But listen, I got to run. Great questions today. Great dialogue. I really, really appreciate it. we record these, so they'll be put in there so you could go back and listen to them. And before I go, if you want to use it, I'm going to put the YouTube link in here so you could save it. It's on my site, but this is the link of that particular training I did last week. And it was pretty fiery, I thought. So if you want to save that link, watch it later, listen to it in your car, whatever you want to do. It is on my YouTube. You can just search for Dominate Your Real Estate Market. And I appreciate everybody being here. We'll see you next week, same time, same bat channel. Good seeing all the faces. Jody Joe and everybody. Adele, good seeing you guys. Russell, thank you for being here. Kenny, as always. Ryan, Tracy, Anna Marie from Hawaii. Thank you all. All right. Appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody. See you now. Bye.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, man.